Oh, I'm not even sure who I'm making this for. This may just be just for me, or it may be something that I share with other people. But I just wanted to talk through some things that I'm dealing with and I'm going through that I'm learning right now. And yesterday, while meditating, I had an insight or a flashback to a time as a child when my family had moved from the neighborhood that was the only one I remember. I mean, we had lived in others before that, but yeah, that was too early for me to remember any of it. And moved from a neighborhood in a town that I loved, for being a young kid, um, to a neighborhood that I hated. Hated is really the good word. And I lived in this new neighborhood from age 7 to um, 16, 17, when I eventually left and went to college. Um, and it's amazing to me to think because this was, I was 7 years old, 6 years old when we moved, and how dramatically um, things had changed in a very short order. I mean, literally in about a year's time, a number of pretty important things had changed dramatically. And looking back, I see how that really kind of changed the arc of my life. It changed the arc of how I thought about myself, how I felt about the world, how I thought about things, and how I went forward with life. Um, and I don't say all of that to say that I blame my parents. Everyone says that. It's crap. Things are what they are, and the move happened for the reason it happened. Um, but it's interesting to me now, 30 years later, 30 plus years later, looking at that and saying, okay, so that was what it was, and it led me down the paths that it did. Um, but I'm now grown. I'm well grown. And that happened way in the past. And so the only way that that continues to impact me is if I let it. The only way it can continue to hold me down is if I let it. And so I'm looking at that and saying, okay, well, how do I use that for a positive? How do I use that for people who may be going through that in their own lives? How do I use that to make not just my life, but make other people's lives better? And I don't know the answers to that yet. But I know now that part of my calling is to use that. And interestingly enough, I'm now at a point where I'm reconnecting with a lot more people from my old neighborhood, my old hometown. And, people I haven't talked to in 20 plus years. Suddenly, we're talking, we're engaging. Some of them actually live, here in the area where I live, in, Raleigh, North Carolina. So, um, I have a feeling that this is all, coming together for a reason. There is a grander design or a grander purpose in it. I don't know fully what that is yet, but I'm intrigued to see where it takes me. Um, I guess the real reason for me wanting to kind of capture this and share it is to say two things. One, we all have a story. We all have a story of what made us who we are. We all have a story of how we grew up, what happened to us, where we were, yada, yada, yada. And it's very easy to get stuck in that story. it can be very easy to say, well, it couldn't have happened any other way. It's very easy to say, well, I had to do the things that I did, or I had to respond the way I did, and I had to become this me that I am now because of that me who I was then. And it's not true. It's a lie that we tell ourselves. It is a comfort lie. I almost think of it like Thanksgiving dinner. It's the lie you know so well that you take your shoes off for it. Um, you lay down on the couch afterwards. You don't bother telling yourselves any truth beforehand because that lie is going to be so big, but it's going to taste so good because you're so familiar with it that, that Thanksgiving lie gets you every year, and it becomes an important part of your life. It becomes a part of your defining story, and I'm not willing to let that be a part of my defining story anymore. Um, it's a part of my origin. It's absolutely a part of my origin. I can't take any of that back. What happened happened. What was. Um, and I went through the things that I went through, but now what I go through is my choice. And so if I'm going to make my life better, if I'm going to do the things that I'm called to do, if I'm going to be the person that the world is calling me to be, then I have to make the choices now. I have to make the choices for myself. I have to make the choices for my kids. And knowing what I know now, it's equally important for me to listen to my kids to make sure that I don't put them in a situation like I was put in, and introduce them to something that may haunt them for 30 some years. Um, so if nothing else, I should take this information and use it to make sure that my kids are taken care of, and that other kids are taken care of. Because to say that up is always better is not necessarily true. Um, to say that newer or bigger or brighter um, is progress is not always true. It's just not. There are plenty of times where having that thing that you want may set you back far further than you would have been otherwise, and could in fact prevent you from getting the other things that you want in life. Um, so hopefully I can take this and not repeat the mistakes of the past. Hopefully I can take this and lead people to make better decisions for themselves and for their families. And hopefully I can take this and embed this in my calling um, when we've established what that is. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of make note of this moment and share it with you, whomever you are, in hopes that maybe it'll help you to unravel some of the things from your origin story and really help you make the call as to whether or not that should remain a part of your defining story. All right. Have a great day. God bless.